Oh, okay. I wasn't even sure my camera was going to be working. And I want to put up the chat widget. What? There we go. Okay. I'm still not 100% better, but we're all the way almost through March and haven't even started our LP news, which is, what this whole channel was really started to do was mostly history, not this drama crap. But it seems like the drama crap's the more popular stuff, so I don't know. But we're going to be doing history this evening. Wayne found some bottles of wine from this local place pre-COVID where called Purgatory, where I was a member of a wine club, and there was 3 bottles in the back, and I'm like, yay, that's wonderful. Let's do the YouTuber stuff, and we're going to get right to history. We'll see how long my voice holds out. And a lot of you know I have chronic back problems. For some reason, they're really irritating me today. I'm in a lot of pain. So if I look a little strained, it isn't from LP stuff. It's because I literally am in a lot of pain right now. Hopefully the wine will help. But let's do the YouTuber stuff. And I need to delete a bunch of crap I had. Okay, so first of all, please like, subscribe, and share. I haven't been asking for that a lot lately. The subscriptions really do help because it boosts the YouTube algorithm, as do likes and sharing and all that sort of stuff. As you know, on social media, I'm Karen Ann Harlos everywhere, though I am taking, for me, a bit of a social media break. I never promise that it's a complete break because unless I'm banned, that's just impossible. But the Colorado convention is coming up a week from tomorrow, and I've got a lot to do, plus LNC minutes to do. So I'm trying to stay away from social media. Obviously, I'm still streaming, still talking about the streams, but if I'm not tweeting 50 times a day, which is not an exaggeration, that's about how much I tweet normally. If I'm now only tweeting 1 or 2 times a day, that is why. But let me tell you, it's the best timeline ever on Twitter right now because the Tiger King and Angela are going at it, which is, as the joke says, I did not have that on my bingo card. We are going to be doing the show on Angela versus the Tiger King, which is meow. It's delicious. Yeah. So we'll be doing that. But lastly, please support me on Patreon. It really, really does help. That's patreon.com/Pink Flame of Liberty. So now let's get right to the history stuff. And I think he's in chat right now. David Davis, if you're still here in chat. Yes, I did get your package. We're going to open it here. I tend to like to do that live. Where? That was weird autofocus that's going on now with my camera. I'm not going to be able to tell you right away if the VHS tape works, because I'm not usually the one who does the VHS tapes. If anyone out there would like to volunteer to convert some VHS tapes into .mov files, I would, or what's it, AIFF, really appreciate it because we got about 10 of them now that need to be converted. And yes, sometimes they don't work. That happens. But we've had pretty good luck with VHS surviving. So what we have in the package here is two VHS tapes. And let's read the side here. But thank you, Dave. ICCN Cable TV interview, March 2002. Cleveland for governor. And Firepower, National Endowment for Liberty. 1994 by Ron Paul. So this one's a lot older. So we got about 10 VHS now. A bunch of them got converted for that 50th anniversary celebration because I had like 500 VHS for a while. And I think nearly every single one of them converted, which is pretty good. And then there were a few pieces of paper. So let's pull these out. One fell. Sorry about that. This is done very similar. We did not have this already. So, it's a little parchment of the Bill of Rights. The National Party used to give things like this out, but normally it was the Statement of Principles. There's a bunch of these we have of the Statement of Principles. It looks identical, like same typeface and everything, but this is the Bill of Rights. So we did not have this in the historical collection so far. I thought we did, but I was envisioning something different. And here's an article for the Iowa State Libertarian Party holds its state convention. And let's see what the date of this is. Do you know what the date of this is? What convention they are talking about? It doesn't say. I wonder if Dave knows. Is the David Davis mentioned in this article you? Because let's read this. It's very short. Iowa Libertarian Party holds its state convention. The Libertarian Party of Ohio will hold its state convention in the gallery room of the Memorial Union Sunday from 9 a.m. 4:30 through 9 a.m. through 4:30 p.m. The party, formed in 1971, is the third largest political party in the United States. However, it is rather small in Iowa, said David Cruz, current party chair in Iowa. We'll be able to date it by the chair, most certainly, and the location. The Libertarian Party is known for its willingness to protect individual citizens of the United States, Cruz said. He said the organization abides 100% by the Constitution. I will disagree with Mr. Cruz at this point. The Libertarian Party does not abide 100% with the Constitution. We don't believe in the post office, for instance, which is called for in the Constitution. We also don't believe in eminent domain, which is against the statement of principle. Did I not say Iowa? Did I say Idaho? Which is provided for in the Constitution. So your state chair was wrong. But I know what he was getting at here. I'm just being very autistic. Sunday's schedule includes 4 speakers. Carolyn Reinhold will speak on the question of libertarian support for circumcision prohibition. I didn't know that was an issue back that long ago. Randy Herode, a candidate for party chair, will talk about the 10th Amendment initiative. Edmund Kotoski, author of Makers and Takers, How Wealth and Progress Are Made and How They Are Taken Away or Prevented, will speak on the best kept environmental secrets. Interesting. I might need to pick up that book. Steve Dosbach, national chair, so we can really date this, will speak about the future of the Libertarian Party and how it may one day be one of the most influential alternative party in the United States. I think it already was at this point. It's interesting how he speaks about this in the future, but then again, the reporter might have quoted him a bit imprecisely, because I can't imagine Steve speaking that way. I think Steve would have said, we already are. He might have said, I don't know. It just seems like that isn't the way Steve Dosbach would have worded it. The party brochure says libertarians believe being free and independent is a great way to live. We want a system which encourages all people to choose what they want from life, that lets them live, love, work, play, and dream their own way, the brochure says. I wonder what brochure they're talking about. The Libertarian Party has 2 members who are also affiliated with Iowa State. David Davis, a graduate student in political science, is the campaign coordinator, and Derek Grimmer, film and technology, is the advising professor. Thank you very much for this, Dave. Sorry again, my voice isn't 100%. Let me stick these back in this envelope, and this will end up going down to the archives. I'm not going to the archives this weekend because, again, I'm working on LNC minutes, which are probably going to be late. Well, late is relative. They're probably going to be too late for the auto approval process. They're only considered late if they aren't 30 days before the next in-person meeting, and I have like 4 months for that. But the auto approval process is to have them done within 20 days. It takes me about 40 hours to produce a set of in-person LNC minutes, and I normally start on them a couple days after getting back, but because I was so sick, I couldn't. And we're now, we're 2 weeks out, like 14 days. I have like 6 days. It's not going to happen. So I could either do it by email ballot or just wait till the next in-person meeting. Okay, let's try this dessert wine from Purgatory. It smells good. It smells a little strong for me, though. Strong's not the right word. I'm more of a white wine kind of gal, not a red wine. That's good. It's good. You guys would tell me if I had something in my teeth, right? I'm so paranoid. Okay. Pardon me. Alrighty. So we're going to get right to the LP news. I'm going to stick it up on the screen here, but we'll come back to the full screen. But just want to show you what it looks like, the way we do when we start a new issue. So here we go. This is the March-April 1975. So let's... What's that picture on the bottom? Gotta look at the caption. Gotta put on my old lady glasses. California LP Convention. That's a pretty good crowd for 1975. It's the evening banquet. Interesting. Okay, but let's just flip through some pages to see what kind of stuff is in here. Is that Murray Rothbard up there? That looks like Murray in the middle. I need to go turn off the furnace. Give me a moment. I thought I turned it off. This is how y'all know I'm in the basement, when I can go just 10 feet to the left and turn off. Is that... Yes, Professor Rothbard gesticulates in a conversation with Reason co-editor Manny Klausner and Roger McBride. Okay, I thought I recognized Murray there. See, why isn't... it's not... Oh, here we go. What? That looks like Star Child, but that's not. Who is that? Susan. I just saw the shorts and I'm like, that looks like something Star Child would wear. Susan Love Brown. So I guess we'll find out why that picture is there. Well, look at that beard. That's quite a beard there. This is LP News editor Bill Evers. Talking things over with Reason co-editor Lynn Kinsky. These are all pictures from the LP California convention. Murray again. Murray and Roger McBride. Let's see who that is. I love these old pictures. Let's see who this is. Ah, that's Robert Nozick down there at the bottom. Look at that hairdo. He's got like a pompadour. And that's the last page there. I do love this font right there where it says 1976. That's a really cool font. But now we're going to go back to page 1. And we'll see how far I can last tonight with my voice. So let's go back to the main screen. But it does feel good to be back doing LP history. Let's have some more of this red wine. That's pretty good. It's like a little specialty. It's an Armenian. I don't even know if they're still in business, if COVID didn't kill them. But it was a little winery where they did their own wine here in Castle Rock, and it was some Armenian immigrants. So we were patronizing a local business right before COVID. I haven't. Wayne, if you're watching this, is Purgatory even still around? Like, it would be a shame if COVID killed, these small business owners. It was a family business. If not, let's go stop by there again. All right. So we're at least going to cover the first page here, and the three titles are Robert Meyer appointed as Hutchinson's successor. If I remember correctly, Ned Hutchinson was someone on Reagan's team. It was a big acquisition we got in staff. Apparently, they lost him already. And, you know, it's easy now to be quite sanguine about this. I bet you this was a big deal back in 75 at the time of this. But it just goes to show you, you know how I've been proven before, this whole idea of there being rival boards on state parties in the LNC saying, nope, one of you guys is right and one of you guys is wrong, is nothing new. That it happened twice while Steve Dasbach was on the LNC. And I'm not trying to do this to pick on Steve. The reason I mention Steve is because he's probably as ideologically opposite to the current LNC. So it's not an ideological issue. In fact, he ran against Angela. So standard operating procedure. So the next headline is reviewers praise Nozick's book. I'm assuming this is Anarchy, State, and Utopia. We'll see. And McBride throws hat in ring for 1976 race. Okay, let me get my, you know I need my magnifying glass. Because look at the print on this. Wowzer. This calls for some more wine. Oh, and before I forget, super chats are always welcome. Okay. Oh, got my little lights here. I might be able to read. No, I definitely will need this. Well, you know, my eyes are at that point where it's like, with my glasses, it's blurry, but without them, it's blurry. It's like right on the cusp. You know, God, getting old sucks. All right, so Robert Meyer appointed as Hutchinson. Why can't I pronounce that name? And I've got, no, it's on this side. I got like some kind of, am I getting a zit? Is that what that is? Am I breaking out? I'm too old for that crap. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm breaking out. Or is that a hive? Whatever. I've been under a lot of stress. Uh-oh. I got a private message. I got to read it. Let's see. Hold on. It disappeared. James Gentleman, why are you sending me a private message during the show? Okay, let's see. Well, it's not showing up. I'm going to have to read it later. James, if I was trying to read. Oh, here I think you've talked about a bylaw in the. Okay, James, I will answer your private message after my show. Okay. It's a Robert's Rules of Order question. Speaking of Robert's Rules of Order, Mike Seebeck's in Alabama this weekend, and he is their convention parliamentarian. Okay. Pardon me again. So, let's read this article. Newly appointed... Oh, shit. Now I feel bad. This isn't like staff quitting. This is like staff dying. I did not mean to make the comparison today. Ooh, I feel... You can tell I don't read these ahead of time. Ooh, did I put my foot in it? Oh, ooh. We didn't have Hutchinson anymore because he died. I hope we didn't kill him. Holy shit. All right. Newly appointed National Director of the Libertarian Party, Ned Hutchinson. I can't pronounce his name, and I feel even worse because he's deceased. Suffered a fatal coronary while playing tennis in Sacramento in late March. Hutchinson, and this is the March-April, so it must not have come out to April. Hutchinson, who was a member of former Governor Ronald Reagan's staff, prior to joining the LP, received nationwide publicity when he bolted the Republican Party to become the LP's national director. Well, man, I did not know we had a national director who died basically in office, you know, as it were. God, sorry. Still got the runny nose. Wow. I feel terrible now. I thought he quit. Oof. Hutchinson worked primarily with the state LP chairperson, chairpersons around the country, assisting them with their organizational efforts and particularly with their attempts to gain ballot access. Ned was a man of great integrity who was committed to the libertarian cause, said National Chairman Ed Crane. The National Executive Committee of the LP, that's what the LNC used to be called, voted in early April to fill the vacancy left by Hutchinson by appointing Bob Meyer, former National Finance Chairman. We must have had a National Finance Committee at some point. And Dave Davis, I just got your private message as well. And Meyer will move to San Francisco in June and will work out of the party's national headquarters there. We were very fortunate to have an individual of Bob's ability, said Crane. Bob has been active in the LP since its founding, and now he will be able to devote his full-time efforts toward furthering the development of the Libertarian Party. Funding for the national director's salary will come from the national headquarters fund rather than general party revenues. Don't know the difference between those two right now. Sorry, my nose is really, really running. It's cold without the furnace on. I do have my little heater on if you can hear it, but it's Colorado. Believe it or not, it's coldest here like in March and April sometimes. It snowed yesterday. Like, I know everyone would think it'd be November, December, but no, March and April. Just in time to kill the tulips. Meyer, 29. Ooh, that's a young person for executive director, though I think Laney's right around 29. She might even be younger than that. Has been a member of the executive committee since 1972. So, National Finance Chairman, was he treasurer? Is that what they used to call the treasurer? And was co-chairman of the highly successful 1975 Conference on International Liquidity and Monetary Reform, held recently in New Orleans. Contacted at his financial counseling office in DeKalb, Illinois, Meyer said he was excited and honored. Like, it's hard to read either way right now. I'm sorry. Trying to get the right. Here we go. The opportunity that we have to make a major impact on the political process in this country immediately would have been inconceivable. You keep inconceivable. Only 2 years ago. Meyer will concentrate his efforts on the area of organizing state parties and fundraising. Anxious to begin a major direct mail campaign, as well as begin a systematic program of contacting individuals with the financial wherewithal to give the LP major assistance, he concluded. Meyer's responsibilities will also include coordinating the efforts of the newly formed LP Board of Economic Advisors. First I ever heard of that. And working with Crane on the party's lawsuit against the Federal Campaign Finance Act. Okay, man, I feel so bad, though. Ned Hutchinson, wow. My back is killing me. This is where I really count on you guys to keep the show going through chat. Because, yeah, I'm in pain, but... So, we had a change due to death in national executive directors. As you can tell at that time, our headquarters were in San Francisco, I think it said it was. And that's where we were renting out an office. Those of you who are paying attention to the LNC business list will note that I brought up the issue once again of our national headquarters. We'll deal with that in an LNC update show. Okay, reviewers praise Nozick's book. Let's see if we are talking about Anarchy, State, and Utopia, but I'm pretty sure we are because I think that came out in 1975. Pardon me. Before I read what it says, and I've already proven I don't read these ahead of time, Anarchy, State, and Utopia is one of my favorite books. I want to tell a little story about it. A lot of you know me know. 2014 is when I joined the party. September 17th to be exact. No, actually, that's when I registered Libertarian. which in Colorado is joining the party. I became a national party member in November. In 2015, it was either June or July, is when I became an anarchist. So it was, about 10 months rather than 6, as the joke goes. However, I'd been one for longer than that and just didn't really realize it. And I also didn't like it. I didn't like the word. Now I kind of like the shock value of it. But back then, merely a year before, I was just a good little Christian constitutional conservative, So going from that to anarchy is quite the change. But when I was talking with other libertarians on the topic, they all kept quoting Nozick's book, Anarchy, State, and Utopia, as the definitive rebuttal against anarchy. And it was quoted so confidently that I was positive, as I felt myself going more and more in that direction, that I was going to read this book and it was going to pull me back from the edge. Actually, Anarchy, State, and Utopia made me an anarchist. Not that by itself. I can cite many influences, including Stefan Kinsella's article. The title I'm not going to get exactly right, but it's something like The Moral Irrelevance of the Impossibility of Anarcho-Libertarianism. Believe it or not, other big influences on me were Susan Hogarth, believe it or not, but Mark Montoni and Jay North as well. I was the token moderate in the Radical Caucus at the time. Now, Anarchy, State, and Utopia, despite not being the definitive rebuttal to anarchy, I still loved the book. It's fantastic. And I can see why people who maybe were not flirting with anarchy would think it is a rebuttal. Because unless you're reading it as like the savior to keep you from going over to the dark side, you might not examine it as closely. But Nozick, and I've done live streams on this before, I probably, because I've never done it on YouTube, should do a breakdown of the sleight of hand that Nozick pulled in that book. And I'll give you a hint. He has to redefine the meaning of the word state in order to justify his state. And once you have to redefine terms in order to justify things, God, that breakout, look how worse it's getting, even just here on the show. Then you know you're in trouble. But still, he is a beautiful writer and has a beautiful mind. It's a great book. And you want to know who else also quoted that book as someone as influential on pulling them from at least conventional political thought, didn't make him an anarchist or a libertarian, is ContraPoints. So if you know Natalie from ContraPoints, she also cites that book. As to why she dropped out of her college philosophy class is that Robert Nozick's Anarchy, State, and Utopia was brought up, and all of these progressives couldn't answer it. They were just completely befuddled. Because even, Nozick wasn't an anarchist, the micro state that he was advocating to your average normie might as well be anarchy. If we ever got to Nozick's micro state, I'd find another hobby. Okay, so reviewers praise Nozick's book. So I've already given my praise if we're talking about the same book. Editor's note. After this article was written, as the LP News was going to press, we learned that Professor Nozick's book had won the prestigious National Book Award in the category of philosophy and religion. Okay, so let's see what book this is. Has anyone here in chat read it? Or have you just heard about it? I find a lot of people quote this book and they've never read it. Massachusetts LP member Robert Nozick, a professor of philosophy at Harvard University, has received widespread acclaim and attention for his new political theory book, Anarchy, State, and Utopia. By the way, point of trivia for you. Guess who wrote the omissions plank? Robert Nozick. Guess who championed the only change that has been made to the omissions plank since it was written? And I think it was passed in 75. yours truly. So I'm actually 1 degree of separation away from Robert Nozick, at least in that regard. We'll look maybe at the omissions plank. Did you guys realize it changed recently? You might not have. Because it's funny, an LP member, I want to tell you another little anecdote. An LP member wrote me just about the whole Ukrainian war and things like that. And it was so funny because they quoted to me the omissions plank to try to prove me wrong. And I said, it's and they quoted the part of it that I wrote. And I go, it's really interesting that you quote that part of the platform. Guess who wrote it? Me. Oops. Okay. I'm sure I didn't know what I meant, though. Williams calls Nozick's book original, remarkable, and strikingly intelligent. Yes, it is. He is a big, or was, because he's since passed away, a big, big brain. Williams praises Nozick's section on decentralized utopian possibilities of libertarianism. The book ends with an engaging sketch of a pluralistic libertarian utopia, which has the unusual property of really carrying through the libertarian ideal by not laying it down, even that people should live in a libertarian manner. I don't get that sentence. That sentence made no sense to me. The libertarian arrangements exist at the higher order level of permitting a large number of various communities between which people may move. They are all ordered within the merely Lockean framework, but in themselves they may be as restrictive or unpermissive as you, or rather they like. And I agree with that. And that's actually describing panarchy. Williams also compliments an ironic twist used by Nozick in his argument. There is a bravura short chapter in which it is argued that the modern state might, after all, be justified. That is, in Mr. Nozick's terms, could come into existence without violating anyone's rights. That sentence is wrong. Nozick does not say that the modern state could come into existence without violating anyone's rights. Nozick's central thesis is that a state, not the modern state, it's a mini micro state, could come into existence without violating anyone's rights. That's his argument against anarchy. I think he, again, has to change definitions in order to do it, but this sentence is wrong. It is not talking about the modern state, which Nozick abhorred, at least at the time of the writing of Anarchy, State, and Utopia. There's an argument as to whether or not Nozick apostatized before his death. He did have a turnabout for a while in his book. What was it? A Thoughtful Life, or A Reflective Life, or Reflections on Life. Somebody could look that up for me. The book he did later in life. And then right before he passed away, he said, rumors of my apostasy have been greatly exaggerated. But he was arguing for rent control, like towards the end there. However, the squeamish reader should be warned against pressing this argument against the general tenor of Mr. Nozick's conclusions. That paragraph is just entirely wrong. For the construction proceeds via everyone selling himself into slavery. What? It is typical of this structurally sophisticated and self-aware book that the reader, by which Williams means the reader of social democratic sympathies, should find himself in an ironical standoff with Mr. Nozick on this way of getting into the modern state. Okay, now I think what he's saying, and nobody would disagree with this, that if everyone in the modern state agreed with the modern state, it wouldn't be violating anyone's rights. But that isn't what Nozick is saying at all here. I think whoever this, not the reviewer from LP News, because they're quoting, who are they quoting? They're quoting somebody else. They're quoting philosopher Bernard Williams. I think fundamentally misunderstood Nozick. I think it's very easy to fundamentally misunderstand Nozick if you're not a libertarian, because Nozick is a strict natural rights theoretician. That's where we get the phrase Nozikian side constraints. Okay, caricaturing somewhat, Williams' criticisms of Nozick are that Nozick, and continued on page 7, let's go there. Oh, we got quite a bit more, which is good because I like talking about Robert Nozick. Ignores Williams' favorite sociologists and psychologists, and that there are virtues other than justice that have a proper claim to figure in the context of public policy in a way that may override justice under some circumstances. No, Nozick does not ignore that. And in fact, he deals with the predominant pushback, which is Rawls's A Theory of Justice. However, he probably doesn't deal, because it's been a while since I read it. Actually, it's been since 2015, right before I became an anarchist. However, Michael Huemer, in the book that I'm reading now, which is The Problem of Political Authority, deals with all of the arguments. So read Nozick, then read The Problem of Political Authority, and you will... Now, maybe you won't become an anarchist, but I'd be really surprised if you didn't, because I think the arguments are pretty airtight. The March Harpers had a review of the Nozick book by Marshall Cohen. We'll have to pick that up. I'd like to read that review. A professor of philosophy at the City University of New York. Cohen begins his review with high praise for Nozick's intellectual ability. His eagerly awaited first book will interest anyone who wishes to observe a first-rate philosophical mind at work. In my opinion, no contemporary philosopher possesses a more imaginative mind, broader interests, or greater dialectical abilities than Robert Nozick. Wow, that is high praise. Cohen notes that Nozick presents a searching critique of the widely admired theory of justice of his Harvard colleague John Rawls. Just as I said, he deals very extensively with Rawls in his book. However, Cohen remains convinced that it is possible to have a coherent, defensible concept of the public interest, and that this public interest should govern certain things, such as broadcasting. We'll have to read this Harper's review. The March 6 New York Review of Books had a review by philosopher Peter Singer. Is Peter Singer the guy who argues for infanticide? Is it, y'all remember, like, this is more recently, but is that the same? Is he a bioethicist, Peter Singer? Do you know who I'm talking about? Entitled The Right to be Rich or Poor. He said Nozick's book consists of rigorous argument and needle-sharp analysis with absolutely none of the unsupported vague waffle that characterizes too many philosophy books. He characterizes the appearance of Nozick's book as a major event in contemporary political philosophy. Singer also says the devastating critique of Rawls, An Anarchy, State, and Utopia, directed especially at the case for redistribution, must very nearly complete the demolition of Rawls's impressive structure. Yeah, Dave Davis says might be a different Peter Singer. But isn't there a guy named Peter Singer that argues for infanticide? Am I wrong? A bioethicist? Do I have the name wrong? It's been a few years. Singer also, okay, we already did that. Singer also contends flatly that there are only two plausibly supportable positions in contemporary moral and political philosophy: Nozick's property rights position and some sort of utilitarianism, the greatest good for the greatest number. Singer himself supports utilitarianism. Nozick also, within Nozickian side constraints, supports utilitarianism. That's where the Radical Caucus gets the one of its 5 key points, that natural rights are utilitarian. Okay, so Dave Davis says there is a Peter Singer who is an Australian bioethicist. That's why I don't think we're talking about the same one then. I mean, it seems like a fairly common name. Nozick also made an important point about the history of big business support for regulatory legislation. One of the contributions of radical historians has been to point out that much of the legislation of the progressive era, though introduced under a patter of being anti-business, was supported by many industries and by leading firms. These firms saw these laws as a way of protecting themselves against competition and new entrants into the market. Exactly, by raising the cost of entry. The March 31st Newsweek called Nozick's book a shrewd defense of laissez-faire and a theoretical buttress for the growing libertarian movement. The magazine's full-page story also said Nozick is convinced that voluntary philanthropy is a freer, more efficient way of helping the poor than government-enforced welfare, and it is here that his theory may well find support amongst non-philosophers. The publication of Nozick's book has moved libertarian political thought into the spectrum of plausible alternatives in academic circles. I think Murray Rothbard's The Ethics of Liberty should have done that, but Nozick's book got a lot more praise. Of course, Murray Rothbard wasn't a philosopher. He is an economist, but still, he might not have been a philosopher by degree, but he certainly was a philosopher. Libertarian ideas now have an opportunity to be seriously debated and discussed in scholarly journals. And I say fuck scholarly journals. It shouldn't require a Harvard philosopher for us to be able to discuss these ideas. But thanks to Nozick, I mean, we do have that. But, you know, I don't worship academia. The book's favorable reception in academic circles has already percolated downward, helping to make libertarianism something to be considered in popular magazines. Both these effects are important breakthroughs. Okay, you know, we probably should go through Anarchy, State, and Utopia. There are things in there, though, where Nozick really just goes far afield. Asking questions that he doesn't answer because he's a philosopher. He likes to do that. And one of his more interesting questions has to do with animal rights. And he doesn't really answer it. But he posits, you know, because we're on a higher order of functioning than certain animals, we might think we have rights that they don't. So he posits an alien civilization that is as further advanced from us as we are from, say, a cat, and wonders if that super evolved alien civilization would then view us proportionally as having less rights, if that makes any sense. It was a really interesting discussion. Dave, I don't think that Peter Singer in this article, though, is a libertarian. He was a philosopher that just thought that Nozick made good points. I don't think there's any insinuation that he's a libertarian. Let me try to find that quote again. I think it was on page 7. Let's see if it says where he was from. And remember, this is the 70s. You know, people could have been a libertarian then and not one later. It's Cohen, Singer. Let's find here. Philosopher Peter Singer in the March 6 New York Review of Books. So it doesn't sound like it would be an Australian. Oh. Drink some wine. I wanted to do one more column. Let's see if my voice will hold out. Okay. McBride throws hat in ring for 76 race. It's continued on page 6. Yeah, I think I can cover this, but my voice will probably give out by the end of this. Oh, my back is killing me. More wine. I'll be like Cersei. More wine. Santa Monica, California. The first candidate for the LP presidential nomination has thrown his hat in the ring. The prospective standard bearer is Roger McBride. Wait. Wasn't John Hospers our first one? They must mean the first one for this election cycle. Because I'm like, Roger McBride wasn't our first presidential candidate. Yeah, this is worded very awkwardly, but they mean for the 76 nomination, not of all time. The prospective standard bearer is Roger McBride, the Virginia elector who left the Republican Party to cast his electoral college ballot for 1972. Okay, LP nominee John Hospers. McBride announced his candidacy to the cheers of his audience at the annual convention of the California LP. And yeah, Peter Singer, it's quoted in chat, that said, killing a newborn baby is never equivalent to killing a person that is a being who wants to go on living. I think babies have a natural survival instinct just because they might not have the capability. Interesting. Okay. So I was right, though. There is a Peter Singer who argues for infanticide. McBride promised a vigorous campaign if nominated. He said the Libertarian Party must offer itself as a new political party in the great American tradition with answers to the problems of inflation, depression, and other social maladies. Libertarians must be confident, McBride argued, that the electorate can be convinced. McBride said that in traveling around the country, he has seen the real willingness of almost all libertarians to throw themselves into the work that must be done. This helped inspire his decision to run. In 1976, LPers should concentrate on convincing the American people that the party has reasonable answers to current problems, according to McBride. We shall never compromise one iota of our principles. Oh, so that's why I love the early party. No bake the cake, no bake the Nazi cake. And with that as our burning guide, we will woo liberals, we will woo conservatives, and we will woo non-politicals. If we cannot win them entirely to our libertarian philosophy and party, we will make them supporters of our cause. McBride pointed out that some pessimistic libertarians see the task ahead as hopelessly impossible. But these pessimists are usually thinking about the difficulty of converting 40 million people to a full mastery of libertarian philosophy. Page 6. In all its details and ramifications. That indeed would be a mind-boggling task, McBride said. Instead, McBride foresees a 1976 campaign strategy built around persuading the American public of the viability of libertarian solutions. Our job is to convince Americans that we do have the answers. That is a far easier task and one well within our means. I think he is pulling a bait and switch here. I don't really see the difference between those two except for the way he worded it. It is not... Okay, well, maybe he's going to explain. Maybe I spoke too soon. It is not necessary for them to come to a complete intellectual grasp of the libertarian position. Most libertarians haven't, so he didn't say that. I just did. It's enough that they learn about our approach and in effect say, hey, that makes sense. Okay, I see what he's saying now, though I think he worded it awkwardly before. McBride emphasized the ripeness of the situation for libertarian political action, as well as the urgency of such action in the present crisis. The situation today is such that our ideas, although gaining increasing acceptance by academia, I think it was supposed to be academic, I don't know, as well as popular journals, probably cannot be published widely enough and later acted upon until too late to save our liberty. We are living in the real world. Our highest and best hope lies in our willingness energetically to advance through the political process. A prerequisite of the advancement of liberty through the political process is serious political standing in the eyes of the populace and the news media. Scant attention will be paid to our views in the presidential campaign of 1976 if we are not on the ballot in many of the major states of the Union, and hence in a position to take advantage of the 40% of American voters who are looking for an alternative. Ballot status. No reporter for any newspaper or for any radio or television station will take our ideas seriously if we present the image of a quixotic, tiny minority. Sorry, that is the impression we're always going to give until we aren't. As long as we're a minority, it's going to be viewed that way. To avoid that, the LP must have ballot status in as many states as our energies permit. Such ballot status drives will require enormous effort, but with a joyous dedication to a cause whose time has come, the effort can succeed. McBride asks the California LP delegates, shall we passively allow those with the conviction that the state ought to control every aspect of our lives to replace what freedom we have with total regimentation? McBride's answer is no, and we can stop them if we make use of the political process and make the LP an effective political vehicle. The Libertarian Party gives us the opportunity to say what we believe without fetters. Use of the LP as a vehicle allows us to act to convince those enormous groups of non-politically oriented people that we can provide solutions to the problems that vex us all. McBride concluded his speech by commenting that though the struggle ahead may be protracted and success not immediate, still we can realistically be infused with a will to win. In our personal lives, we all know that success never occurs instantly. It is achieved over a period of time. In conducting this revolution of ours, we must keep this perspective and remember that is also true in political life. But we shall carry our cause to the enemy, and in the end, victory is certain. We stand on the threshold of the most glorious political opportunity ever offered to a generation of Americans. Our cause is just, and the prospect for its victorious realization is within our grasp. To achieve that, we must act, and we can, and we will. You can either become very depressed by hearing that or remain hopeful. I choose to remain hopeful. Okay, with that, that is all my voice can handle for this evening, but we did cover quite a bit of ground. And I was speaking on optimism. Next episode of LP Time Capsule will have the headline, Some Reasons for Optimism on the LP's Future, and Building an Information Arsenal. All right, everyone, I'm going to give it a few moments to see if there's any conclusory comments. Otherwise, I'm going to be off for the evening because, again, I'm really busy. For those of you who are wondering what I was doing today, not that I thought you spent your day wondering what I was doing, but, it turns out there is an off-year town council race in my county, and I discovered that today, so began laying out the plan to get 3 Libertarians, because there's 3 seats up in a local town, and hopefully I can try to find 3 Libertarians to run, because not many off-year elections, so that will be fantastic. And come April 1st is Castle Rock's boards and commission applications. I've applied every year, gotten turned down every year, but I'll apply again. Wayne does as well. He's gotten turned down each year too. Maybe this time, since both of us have run for town council before, we're becoming more of a known political quantity here. That might be a bad thing, because I'm not shy about what I believe at all. Wayne is much more diplomatic. He doesn't compromise. He's just much more diplomatic. But the only one that I really apply for, well, not even say really, the first time I applied for several, but ever since then, I only applied for the Historical Preservation Committee, because I'm qualified for that. But I don't believe in eminent domain and things like that to preserve historical property. So they don't like that. I say we need to find a voluntary means of doing this and not use the power of the government. All right, everyone, I hope you have an awesome night. I probably will be streaming tomorrow in order to catch up, but it depends on how I'm doing with my work. But do love you. Let me just stick this up one more time. I would truly appreciate it if you can afford it, if you would consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/Pink Flame of Liberty. Before we go, hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already, and have an awesome night. Bye-bye.
Gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in the business.